Have you ever finished a needlepoint project and thought, why doesn't this look like what I thought it was going to? Or worse, you invested in beautiful threads, spent hours stitching, and halfway through realized something just wasn't working? Well, today I want to talk about the most expensive needlepoint mistakes I see stitchers make, not just in dollars, but in time, energy, and enjoyment. And here's the good news. Most of these mistakes are completely avoidable once you understand a few foundational concepts. Let's get started so we can save you time and money so you can get the absolute most joy out of your needlepoint hobby. First things first. When I say expensive, I'm not just talking about thread and canvas costs. I'm talking about ripping out stitches, again, abandoned projects, buying threads you end up not using, restarting because something just feels off, and that quiet frustration that makes stitching feel more like work instead of the joyful experience you expected. Most of that doesn't come from a lack of skill or creativity, it comes from a lack of strategy, which brings us to our first mistake, choosing stitches without a plan. This is probably the most common and most costly mistake I see stitchers make. You find a decorative stitch you like, you try it on your canvas, then you add another one and another, but halfway through the project starts to feel busy or heavy or disconnected. That's because stitches don't exist in isolation. They belong to stitch families, and those families share characteristics, things like direction and texture and density, how the thread travels on the back. When stitches aren't chosen with those things in mind, they can end up fighting each other instead of working together. And that leads to ripping, rethinking, or starting over. To avoid this, here's the simple rule most stitchers never hear, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Your canvas only wants enhancement. Every area of your canvas is asking for something specific. Texture, perspective, and focal point. When you choose stitches that work together to do their unique job, things feel harmonious. But when you mix stitches that are too different in the same area, that's when the project starts to feel busy, heavy, or disconnected. It's not that the stitches are wrong, they're just competing for attention. Once you start asking, what does this area need, instead of what stitch do I like, your stitch choices get dramatically easier, and your projects start to feel intentional. With that said, even when stitchers choose the right kind of stitch, they often don't think about how that stitch is worked. Because two stitches can belong to the same family and still behave very differently, depending on the pathway the thread takes on the back. Which brings me to mistake number 2, ignoring stitch pathways. This is the one most stitchers don't realize is costing them their most precious asset, time. You see, you can work the same stitch 2 different ways and get 2 very different results. If the pathway creates extra bulk on the back, distorts the canvas, or changes how the stitch looks on the front, as it does with these 2 stitch patterns, you might think the problem is the stitch or the thread, when it's actually the pathway. Understanding stitch pathways helps you to maintain consistent tension and make intentional choices instead of just guessing. That's saved money and frustration. Understanding stitch pathways helps you maintain consistent tension and make intentional choices instead of just guessing. That's money saved and frustration avoided. So I want you to remember that choosing a stitch is not just about finding something that fits into a shape, it's a system. The diagram only shows you what the stitch looks like on the front, like we see here with our example of Alicia's lace and alternating continental. The pathway determines how the stitch behaves. That behavior affects how much thread it uses, the overall appearance of the stitched area, and the flexibility of your canvas. So when a stitch looks too bulky or inconsistent or even dull, it's often not because the stitch is wrong or the thread is wrong, it's because the system isn't working for that situation. Once you understand stitch pathways, you stop asking, why does this stitch hate me? And start asking, what is this stitch designed to do? And here's where this connects directly to the next costly mistake. If you don't understand what a stitch is supposed to do, it's almost impossible to choose the right thread for it. Because threads aren't just about color. They have jobs too. Which brings us to mistake number 3, buying threads before knowing what they need to do. This one sneaks up on people. You see a gorgeous thread on the wall at your local needlework shop. You fall in love with it, you buy it, but later you realize it's too thick for the stitch you chose, or it doesn't play nicely with neighboring stitches, or it doesn't behave the way you expected. And if you've ever fallen in love with the thread, brought it home, and then spent a good 10 minutes trying to convince it to work, go ahead and type "been there" in the comments. No judgment. That's just part of learning. So what do you say we just keep on learning? Threads behave differently depending on the stitch family, the stitch pathway, and how much coverage or openness the stitch requires. When you understand that relationship, you buy with intention, not with your fingers crossed, hoping that it's going to work. And here's a realization that sneaks up on a lot of stitchers. You don't always choose threads first. Sometimes the stitch chooses the thread. The moment you decide how much coverage you want for an area, whether you want texture or sparkle for a design component, or how important accurate color match is, you've already narrowed down the thread options dramatically. That's why narrowing down your thread choices beforehand often helps with stitch selection. It's not that a thread or stitch is wrong, it's that those decisions should be made in tandem. So instead of being rigid about choosing all of your threads first or all of your stitches first, consider how different threads work together with different kinds of stitches. It'll make thread shopping calmer, faster, and way more successful. And this is exactly where another belief starts to form. When thread choice feels complicated, when stitches don't behave the way you expect, people assume the problem is their skill level. They start telling themselves, using decorative stitches must be hard, which brings us to mistake number 4, treating decorative stitches as far too advanced for you to try. This belief costs people years of enjoyment. You see, decorative stitches aren't advanced because they're hard. They feel advanced because no one ever explained how they work to you. Once you understand what stitch families are, how pathways can affect appearance, and how stitches relate to one another, using decorative stitches stops feeling intimidating and starts feeling playful. Here's the realization that changes how you can approach decorative stitches. You're not learning a bunch of random stitches. You're learning a small number of ideas with variations. Most decorative stitches are built from the same underlying structures: straight stitches, cross stitches, woven stitches, tied stitches, knotted stitches, and combinations of those. Once you recognize the stitch family, the stitch is no longer new. It's just a variation of something you already know. That's why once stitchers learn the core families, they suddenly feel like they know way more stitches than before. Using decorative stitches doesn't expand your skill set, it deepens it. So as we close out today, let's tie all of this together with the mindset shift that saves the most time, money, and frustration. Instead of asking, what stitch should I use here? Start asking, what kind of stitch will create the effect the area needs? That one question quietly does all of the heavy lifting. It leads you to the right stitch family, the right pathway, the right thread, and a project that feels cohesive and intentional from the very beginning, not halfway through, not after ripping out, and not after your second try. Needlepoint is meant to be relaxing, creative, and joyful. When you understand the structure behind decorative stitches, you waste less, stress less, and enjoy stitching so much more. And that's the real return on investment. If this video helped something click, make sure you're subscribed because we are just getting started. Next week, we're going to go much deeper into needlepoint stitch pathways, and I'll show you how to actually apply this knowledge while you're stitching so your decorative stitches look smooth, consistent, and intentional, not lumpy or messy. We'll look at real examples, talk through some common "wait, why does this look off" moments, and I'll help you start seeing stitch pathways the way experienced stitchers do. And if you're at that stage where you've got basket weave under your belt and you're ready to start dabbling in decorative stitches without feeling overwhelmed, you're going to love what I'm teaching inside Beyond Basket Weave, especially the way we break down concepts like stitch families and pathways so you can actually choose stitches with confidence. I'll put the details and the link right below this video. Alrighty, my friend, that's all for now. Until next time, happy stitching.